I spent a lot of time talking about how to 3D print stuff for your tabletop games, but I don't spend as much time talking about how I actually use them in my games, which is the reason I print them in the first place. I wanted to kind of make an episode combining the two of them, but I decided to do something a little bit crazy and kind of up the ante a little bit. So I decided to make like a Game of Thrones themed adventure, which in D&D world we call a one-shot, and make it, using everything I normally print or teach people how to print on the channel, and kind of make like a big project where I combine everything I show on the channel in one for a super cool fun project that is probably gonna be really frustrating. Oh, and I started last night. I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but we're gonna try. I had the crazy idea to kind of make a short 3D printed adventure. I chose Game of Thrones because I'm really excited for the next season, which is the last season, and I wanted to do something really cool and just kind of combine everything and kind of challenge myself. Not so much with like the printing and getting the best print quality, but so much as just doing a super cool project and kind of combining everything I do and everything I love. D&D, shows I like, painting, 3D printing all together, finishing, and kind of just putting it all together for a big product, and take you guys along for this journey and let you see my successes, my failures, what goes right, what goes wrong, and just kind of document the whole thing. So I hope you enjoy it. Finally, real quick, this whole video is filled with spoiler alerts. So if you haven't seen through season 7 of Game of Thrones, if you do, you want to know there's gonna be a lot of spoilers in it, because part of what I'm doing is trying to get as close as possible to the show, and I'm gonna be showing clips to show what my references are when I'm looking for the models that I'm gonna be using, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, there's gonna be real spoilers in here, okay? Just heads up. Here are the rules to this challenge, if you will. One is all the minis need to be 3D printed. I'm not using anything from WizKids or any other minis. I'm not using like any Game of Thrones minis that exist in real life. I'm finding them myself online and finding the closest thing I can find to see, one, if I can do it, and two, how I'm gonna make this happen. Number two, models and terrain need to match the show as closely as possible. I haven't read the books, so I don't know how they describe things there, so I'm going what I know, and there's a lot of visual reference that I can tie to from the show. I decided I wanted to make this one shot, or this adventure, take place right around this scene. And the third thing is I'm gonna try to have everything ready for this encounter by Thursday. That gives me 3 days to plan, print, and paint everything, including the minis I'm gonna be using, the scatter terrain I'm gonna be using, buildings I'm gonna be using, and of course I need to actually write the one shot and kind of organize it or whatever so that we can use it. Oh, and I'll probably make some characters for my players to choose from too, since I'm gonna have like hero minis for them to choose as well. I think those are fun for this type of adventure. All right, now that we've got these basic rules established, first we need to start with the story, with the one shot. The basic idea is that a few members of the Night's Watch that came with Jon Snow to Hardhome, when he was doing his little convincing to rally them to their side, a few of them were assigned on scout or watch duty. So of course they go to the high ground, which right there on the coast where there, it's at the top. The idea is that if anything happens, they can send some type of signal or have a runner go back to let them know as a heads up. So, the party doesn't end up cutting it last minute in an escape or something like that. Just saying. So we're assuming somewhere beyond that ridge, there's some type of area that's like an outpost or something like that, that was maybe established for the wildlings or the free folk to be able to have a kind of lookout. And I'm assuming it's small enough to maybe hold a couple of troops. Maybe there's one little place there for some shelter, as well as like a natural cave where people could go, right? We have some type of precedence in the show for the wildlings knowing about the caves and stuff in the area, so I think it's safe to assume that maybe this was used at one point or could still be used. We just don't see it because we don't need to see it. I'm not sure if the free folk ever really make anything like this, so I'm kind of taking some artistic liberty to make this and kind of make it work within the realm of it and still kind of have some type of structure for this encounter. I also can't make like all of Hardhome, especially in 3 days, so we're gonna make it a smaller feel, an outpost, like I mentioned. Once the players are in this outpost, they're gonna have this kind of moment of calm. Then they're gonna be ambushed by those whites and the White Walker army that ends up arriving in Hardhome not too much later. So this is gonna be one of those King of the Hill, will you survive the night type battles, and it's gonna be very hard. And that's gonna be the challenge, is wave, break, wave, break, wave, break. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Now we gotta find the outpost that we're gonna be using with like the walls and everything like that. So here's the general style of the hard home buildings. They're these thatched roofs with these posts, kind of Viking style, or I know that's not really Viking style, but well, that's what we think of most of the time, I think, a lot of times in like fantasy. And when I'm looking for something like this, I almost always start on Thingiverse because free is good, right? I found these Viking huts, which were almost perfect in my opinion. Only thing, they didn't have that thatched roof I was kind of looking for. But here's the thing, in Terrain 4 Print's store, he's got these Viking sheds and tower set, and this one would fit just right, I thought. So that's what I'm using. If you're on a budget here, I think the original would work just fine. Combined with the palisade gates and the palisades themselves, I think they actually do a pretty good job of simulating what we see in the show. So that takes care of the buildings and the walls. If you look at Hard Home itself, scattered all over are these tents, these little stick mounds, and fire pits everywhere. So in addition to the 1 or 2 huts that I wanted at least a little bit of these extra little things to spruce up this environment so it looks a little bit better. And also make it more interesting. So for the tent, while there was a Viking tent that fit more closely, I liked the detail of this other tent by EC3D, so I went with this one. And it wasn't too far off, so I'm okay with it. I'm okay with a little bit of a change if it's gonna look better in my opinion. I for sure wanted some type of campfire with an LED in it or a light or something, because I wanted some type of glowing effect at least for one piece. And I know I'm not gonna have time to do like object source lighting on my minis or anything. So this was gonna be like the closest real effect to this. The best I found that fit with my buildings and my set was by far this one with Snazware. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, I'm not sure what these pile of sticks are in Hard Home. I'm assuming this is like where cooking might happen, and maybe there's like pots that aren't really in view or something like that. But I struggled to find like any references to these little sticks, because you know it's like set props that just make it feel lived in. Maybe some of you in the comments can correct me, help me understand what that is so that I know. So for now, we're gonna have a terribly inaccurate set, and we're gonna just include a pile of sticks just so we have more stuff. I like to put stuff on the map so that players see it and they go, oh, what's that? And then they can think about how they can use it to their advantage. And so I don't know what they're gonna do with the pile of sticks during a zombie or a white invasion, but you know, why not? Looks like we're good and we're ready to print, which is what I started last night. We're just gonna see how it comes out and kind of adjust as we go along. Hope we can make it in those 3 days. I didn't expect it to be so small. So with that campfire, I am terrible with that sort of thing, with the super small electronics and all that stuff. So I'm gonna print a new one that just lets me put in a tea light. It's gonna be way out of scale, and it's not gonna be the exact type of campfire, but it's gonna allow me to have that glow effect, which is more important to me than being exactly the same. And it's gonna still have the same effect. I'm imagining my players maybe like throwing whites or kicking them onto the fire for dramatic effect or something like that, which is really what I want. One other thing I realized is when I was preparing these walls, they come in different angles. They're not just like straight palisades, which is good because it'll feel like more organic, I think. I kind of settled on this half circle over shape. Instead of doing a circular type of encounter, I decided I would kind of put these up against a wall or like a mountain of some sort, and maybe put a cave there that would have acted as that natural place for them to set up the outpost in the first place while they were building or whatever the case might be. Which means I add more stuff to my print queue. So yeah, we now add these walls that we're gonna be trying to print too. So at this point, I decided that I want to also make something by hand to kind of accent this. And I wanna make a battle board. So while I got all this terrain now printing up, put the minis to the side, it's time to try and make this board in the meantime. So later in the video, I just made this, right? And I go check out my print. Do you notice anything special? Look at this, I'll show you. All right, baby, one little squeaky tube thing later. One of those little thingies that don't like that up it. We're back in action, baby. Or not. Okay, figured it out. Look at this. If you can see that butt, it dropped. It dropped down, so I guess it wasn't tight enough. Let me fix it. All right, let's, so this is day 3, and I just got back from work and I've checked these out, but I want to show you guys what is going on. I want it to look like dirt with snow on top of it, kind of like you see in the show. And I'm gonna try some things that I don't normally try with this and hope it comes out well. All right, so we're on day 4 of this 3-day challenge. I can show you where I'm at if I had stopped last night. And, you know, I'm not disappointed because I really want to do something really cool, but it's definitely apparent I needed more than the 3 days to do something kind of as ambitious of a set piece as I wanted. So I'm still going to keep going though, and I'm going to try to maybe have this done by 5 days because I think that 5 days is kind of a golden mark. So I've had to fix my Ender 3 like 3 times. The other one decided to get unleveled somehow. Don't ask me how. The filament's breaking on me, so I've had to switch out the filaments. You know, I could show you here. Okay, actually I'll do this. You can see the all of the failures that I've had from these past few days alone. So, you know, this is kind of how it happens, and definitely you know, before this, my printers were running perfect. So of course, you know, it's gonna happen when I've got a little video going, a timed challenge. This is what it's about. And I think at the end of tonight or tomorrow, when we hit that 5-day mark, I'm gonna be really happy with it. It's coming along and it's been really exciting. So it's the end of day 5. You guys are probably wondering how I did, how everything turned out. Well, the terrain was finished, at least to tabletop standard, something I'm happy with to just get on the board. The battle board was finished too, and I was able to paint 4 of the Night's Watch. I'm still missing the 3 wildlings, they were incomplete. Not able to get to any of the monster minis, which means I have a ton of primed black zombies, skeletons, different types of bosses, a like giant skeleton that we printed, some ghouls, you know, lots of stuff. But as you guys know, the challenge was a lot more than just 3D printing and painting. The challenge involved writing an adventure or an encounter in D&D terms that my players would be able to play through and that I would be able to feel comfortable with at the end of the day. So I really wanted it to be balanced and something memorable that would make you feel like you might have been in a moment in the show or in Westeros. On top of that, running through it last night, what it did was made me realize there were some things that I could have done better. And even on paper, it would never have really clicked for me because I had so much going on. But seeing it there on the board made me realize like I need more dimension, I need more depth, I need more things that my players can engage with. So I added these like crates and barrels, which are also printed. They're one of the first things I printed, and I use them in like every single game pretty much for this reason, and because they're just so easy to print and paint, and I already had them. I didn't print them for this, but that would have just added to the 5-day total. So, but bottom line is this, I think I went a little too ambitious with this 5-day challenge. I pretty much wanted to do so much that takes longer than 1 week. On top of that, I wanted to paint an entire like zombie undead army, and that there's no way that I would have been able to do that on top of doing all the other stuff I did this week, on top of some of the troubleshooting stuff, which happens. It's just part of the journey, right? That's part of what this challenge is about. And part of why I'm sharing this is because if you are thinking about getting a 3D printer and you have this expectation that, you know, in 1 week you're gonna have everything you need to just show up on to your game, then you might not meet your personal expectations and kind of set yourself up for failure because you want to do so much that's just not reasonable and not realistic, frankly. And then it gets stressful and then it's not fun anymore, which I don't want that either. Love to hear what you thought about this challenge. Did you think I just did a bad job? I didn't execute, I wasn't organized enough? Do you think you could do it? Have you tried anything like this? And what is kind of the best encounter you've prepared for your game night, maybe in 3 or 5 days, or maybe a little bit longer, maybe like a week? I would love to hear that, and I think a lot of other people in the community would too. This is like what's inspiring for us. This is like what gives us the ideas and gives us the passion and the fire to keep doing this, is hearing the other stories from other people and being like, that is so cool. I want to do that too. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, tell your friends about it, share it, and subscribe if you do like videos about 3D printing for your tabletop games. If you're interested in supporting the channel outside of those things, which are completely free, you can also check out our web shop. We have more models on there, and our Night's Watch inspired troops are gonna be on there eventually too. So yeah, check it out, stay tuned, and until next time, happy printing and happy gaming.